Hey, I'm Tosh, and this is Nosh with Tosh, a magical cooking show where I'm gonna teach you how to make one really big dish, and then we're gonna transform it into two totally different meals so that you can eat for days without boring yourself, your friends, your family, or your pets. Today we're gonna start with juicy grilled summer vegetables with pesto and feta, and then we're gonna transform it into caramelized onion, deviled eggs, and a buttery German potato salad with herbs. And at the end of each episode, we're gonna make a dessert that takes 5 minutes or less that you can make with no recipe at all. Oh, you wanna know who I am? That makes sense since I'm invading your living room. I'm Tosh, I'm a West Coast native. I was born in San Diego, I grew up in Oregon, and I currently live in Los Angeles where I have been working as a private chef for a decade. In that time, what I've learned how to do is cook smarter, not harder, and that's what I wanna share with you so that you can eat really, really, really well and spend more time doing the things that you love. Let's cook. Okay, the first thing we're going to do is make our roasted vegetables since we need them to make everything else that we're gonna do today. Now, the trick to making really excellent grilled vegetables is a marinade, and it doesn't have to be complicated. In fact, with good ingredients, the simpler the better. We're gonna combine 2 tablespoons of olive oil, roughly, any year now, and I'm gonna add approximately 2 teaspoons of thyme. If you don't have the time, you can leave it out. Like clock time. Is my joke landing? Okay. And you could add another herb that you have lying around, but for all-purpose roasted vegetables, I think thyme is. So we have 2 teaspoons of thyme, roughly. I'm gonna add 2 cloves of garlic. You could use your knife and mince these if you want, or you can use one of these. Microplane zester, and then you just, oh God. Man overboard. So we've got our 2 cloves of garlic, and there are only 2 more ingredients that are going in here. We're gonna do a teaspoon of salt, and our final ingredient is one of my favorites of all time, balsamic vinegar. But it's not any balsamic, it's actually good balsamic. I know you go to the grocery store, there's 37 kinds of balsamic. It's like, what do I get? Why is this one $15? Why is this one $372? Well, I'm gonna tell you. There are 3 main classifications of balsamic vinegar, and you want one of 2. You want one that either says DOP or IGP. If you see DOP, it's probably gonna cost an arm and a leg. And that's because it comes from one of 2 regions in Italy. It has to be aged for at least 12 years. The grapes have to come from that region and the processing has to be there. It's incredibly stringent and it's just like the best of the best. Most of us are not gonna be purchasing that vinegar. What you'll wanna get is a vinegar that says IGP, which means it's made in that same style and it's made in those same 2 regions, but the grapes could have come from anywhere. It's still gonna be more expensive than the really runny kind that you see, but this ingredient you do not need much of, and it's going to make everything that you cook so much more delicious. That stuff that's thin, it's just something that's made really quickly with colors and additives to make it appear like balsamic, but it's an imposter. So you want one of those 2. You want the DOP or the IGP. Most of the time, IGP is the way to go. Remember, if it looks thick, it's nicely reduced. It's probably good. Oh, you want me to cook with it? Okay. Cool. I'm gonna put 2 tablespoons in it. So into the marinade, you can kind of toss whatever you are feeling. These are really singing summer to me, and they're gonna be perfect for your outdoor barbecues, for your 4th of July party, whatever you got going on. First thing we're gonna start with is our asparagus. First, I'm just gonna chop off the bottom inch. And for this, I'm just going to run my peeler along the bottom, and then you get just the juicy, nice center without any of the part that's hard to eat. And I just like to throw them directly into the marinade. Yeah. Okay, The next thing we're gonna add is all of our squash. I have assorted varieties of squash from the farmer's market. I love them for their different shapes and textures and colors. So the smaller guys, I usually just do them in half and toss them in. If you wanna do them in quarters, you can. With the bigger ones, we're gonna score them, which is going to both help it absorb more of the marinade, and it looks really, really pretty when it comes off the grill. You just hash through them. You don't want to go too deep or you'll possibly run all the way through it. On these bigger guys, there is another step to ensuring they're super delicious, and that is to salt them before they get added. The salt is gonna draw out some of the water that's on the surface of the vegetable. I'm gonna just lie them on a towel so that they can get their groove on. Next up, we've got mushrooms. And with mushrooms, you never want to rinse them. So what I do is I dry clean them. You can either use like a vegetable brush or you can just take a kitchen towel. If you're using something that's about this size, like a baby bella or white mushrooms, those cat mushrooms, I just throw them in whole. Next thing we're gonna do is prep our onion. Now, the only thing that's really important with the onion here is that we keep the root end intact. Having all of these layers still left on the onion means that the ones on the inside are gonna steam and the ones on the outside are gonna get nice and crispy, which is better for flavor, but also since we're gonna be using it for the deviled eggs, that's the right texture that we want. Okay, second to last but not least, we have a variety of corn. Okay, so this is your baby corn. The baby corn can just get tossed in the marinade with everything else. I've never been as excited about anything in my whole life as this baby corn. And we've also got our full-sized corn, which is delicious, but not as adorable. You know, oftentimes people do cook them inside of the husk, but I like to take them out and get good char marks on them. For these guys, what I'm gonna do is double butter, meaning instead of putting them in the marinade, I'm gonna put a little bit of butter on them now, and then when they come off of the grill, they get a little bit more butter. And for these guys, I use a lightly salted butter so that I don't have to salt the corn later. The last thing I'm gonna do is dry off the squash, and all the marinade can go in these crevasses. So we've got all our vegetables going on in the marinade, and now I'm just gonna flip-flop them around to get them all coated. I don't know who I'm kidding with this. This is really a task for the old hands. Just make sure everything is coated pretty well. Doesn't have to be perfect. So I'm gonna put this on the side so we're ready to take it to the grill. And last but certainly not least, we're gonna prep our potatoes. So these are German butterball potatoes, cutting them either in quarters or eighths, just depending on the size, so that they're perfect both for putting on your roasted veggie platter, but they're also perfect for your potato salad. And then I'm gonna butter them. The butter is salted, but I'm also adding a little bit of extra salt. So I'm gonna just roll it on up into quarters. So now you can see we have a seam, obviously, on the top. So I'm gonna flip it over. And now I'm gonna do this one in the opposite direction. Now we're gonna take all these beauties to the grill. Look at our beautiful friends. I'm gonna reserve some, I'm gonna reserve some of the onions for our deviled eggs that we're gonna make next. Look how great these are. Look at our little baby corns. So super, super, super simple. All I'm gonna do is toss all of these into a mixing bowl yet again. Ooh, hot. and they're gonna get tossed with some pesto. So I'm gonna add 1.5 tablespoons of pesto. I'm gonna give these a good mix. And now I'm just gonna put all of our vegetables on a platter. Once all your veggies are on, you can do your second buttering of the corn. I'm gonna snap them in half and add them. And then finally, we'll open up our potatoes. My gosh, I wish you could smell these. Buttery, buttery, delicious potatoes. Can't help myself. So the rest of these, we can use them for potato salad. And we're gonna finish these guys with some feta. You could use goat cheese or any relatively crumbly white cheese. And then finally, it gets a little bit of fresh parsley. And then you have a super beautiful platter of your grilled vegetables. These are perfect for a weeknight with your family. They're great for holidays, perfect for 4th of July, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. And it also was the prep work for our caramelized onion deviled eggs and for the potato salad that we're gonna make. So I'm feeling good. Okay, let's move on. Okay, I cut them. What's in my hair? Asparagus. All right, our roasted vegetables are done. So we're gonna take the caramelized onions from the delicious vegetables that we just made and we're gonna turn them into the star ingredient of some deviled eggs. A lot of people feel like this egg is healthier than this egg because this one is brown and this one is white. The color of the egg is not a bearing on how good the egg is for you. It's just the kind of chicken that it came out of. Before we boil these friends, it is very important that you start boiling your water before you drop the eggs in. The water boiling first means that the egg whites are gonna firm up really quickly, so they're gonna adhere to themselves rather than sticking to the shell. So that's how you make sure that when you go to crack your egg at the end, it's not impossible. So I'm gonna take these over to the stove, and we're gonna drop them into the water. I'm gonna do 8 eggs, and they're gonna go for 10 minutes. Yeah, eggs are done. We're gonna strain them and then immediately put them into an ice bath to shock them so they don't cook any longer. And then I cracked them all. And then once they're nice and cool, I'll take them out of the ice bath, and then you get eggs that are super easy to peel like this. See, look. This is riveting content, right? Huzzah. Okay, so now you've got all your eggs peeled. I'm going to half them. And then once you half them, you can stick them all in the bowl. So I just kind of use my fingers to bloop, and then it'll just flop right out. And if you get one that looks really stupid, like this one turned out really dumb, you just do this. I'm gonna move all of my eggs onto a platter so that once we're done and ready to pipe, it's super easy. And then we're just gonna make a super easy filling. So we have our 8 egg yolks, and then I'm gonna add like 2 teaspoons of the beautiful caramelized onions that we have from when we threw them on the grill. And I'm just gonna chop them relatively rough first, and then I'll comb back over them. You just keep going. Once you have them to your liking, you toss them in your bowl. And my other little secret ingredient, we have bread and butter pickles. Aren't those good? And again, we're gonna cut them small. Okay, so it's ready to go in the bowl. And bring in the chives. And these are just gonna go on at the end, so you don't need too many of them. So to our egg yolks, and our onions, and our pickles. We're gonna add all the normal guys. We're gonna add a little bit of mayonnaise, and then I'm also gonna add about a teaspoon of mustard. That was a little heavy, but that's fine. And a little bit of salt. And the only other ingredient that goes in here is our Worcestershire sauce. Just gonna add a dash, and then we just mix. Yeah. Mix. Now I'm sweaty, it's a lot of mixing. And I can see all of our little caramelized onion bits. Okay. The trick to making beautiful deviled eggs is a piping bag. If you don't have a piping bag, you can also use a Ziploc bag, and then you can just slide this guy in. Life is messy, the kitchen is messy, it's fine. I almost just did it again. Hey, look over there. And it's time for the exciting moment. We're gonna pipe it in. And again, if you don't have a piping bag, you just use a Ziploc bag, you chop off the end. And you can fill it however high you want. So I'm gonna finish them with some chives, the ones that we cut earlier. And then last, but definitely not least, one of my absolute favorite ingredients, we're gonna add some smoked paprika. And then if you want, you can also finish with some hot sauce. And you can just like dot them on. Pick some to have hot sauce and some without. So here you have your beautiful deviled eggs featuring the caramelized onions from yester recipe. These are incredibly easy, and I think you're gonna love them. I just wanna take these all and eat them. Now, we are going to transform those beautiful roasted potatoes that we made on the grill into a buttery German potato salad. So I'm gonna put these guys to the side. To our little potatoes, I'm gonna add a half of this red onion, finely diced. Remember earlier when we grilled those onions and we kept the root intact? We're gonna do the exact same thing here for this half of an onion because it's gonna make it easiest for us to dice. First, I'm gonna hold it up and I'm gonna do a few slices towards the root of the onion, making sure not to cut all the way through the onions. And then I'm gonna do the same thing with the onion lying down, again, towards the root. And now, if you look at it from the front, you've got this like grid. So when I start to cut through it, all of my chopping work is done for me. Ooh, ah, wow, amazing, we love it, you're the best. Thanks, guys. And then the only other thing we're gonna add into our bowl is some dill. Dill is my absolute favorite herb. It's just the freshest, most aromatic, delicious scent. So I'm gonna start, so good. I'm gonna start with about a tablespoon of dill, and then we'll just see where it goes. Okay, I'm gonna mix her up real fast. You can kind of see like how nicely coated are all the potatoes. Okay, we're gonna make a very simple dressing to toss into the potatoes. First, I'm gonna add apple cider vinegar, about 2 teaspoons. And we're also gonna add equal parts Dijon. So mustard, which is our next ingredient, is actually very cool. It's one of the oldest condiments recorded. So you're really hanging out with history when you have some mustard. And the way that you make mustard is you grind mustard seed and you add it to a liquid. The more acidic the liquid is, the less spicy the mustard is. So like a Chinese hot mustard is ground mustard and basically water. And then the more acidic liquid you put it in, like if you add it to vinegar, you'll end up with the most mild of mustards. When you're buying mustard, you wanna make sure you get one that has an expiration date at least 6 months out. As soon as it hits whatever liquid, the mustard seed starts to deteriorate. So if you like spicy mustard and you leave it in the fridge for a year, it's not gonna be spicy anymore. So buy your mustard and use your mustard. Mustard. So I'm gonna add about 2 teaspoons, and then I'm gonna add a nice handful of parsley. You've probably noticed throughout this episode that I'm really big on eyeballing measurements rather than actually using any measuring spoons. I think one of the most fun things about cooking is like being able to fail and trying things and seeing what works and playing around and also not making a mess. So for that reason, I've really gotten accustomed to just doing like a little bit of this and a little bit of that. But if you want to use measuring spoons, I absolutely encourage you to go ahead and do that. But also, if you want to get a little braver in the kitchen, I encourage you to just follow your intuition and see what happens. Like, I'll add a little salt now. How much? Don't know. Just kidding, it was like 1/8 of a teaspoon. I'm also gonna add some garlic. We're gonna do 2 cloves of garlic. And what else? Oh, we have to add lemon juice. I'm gonna start with about 1/3 of a lemon. Okay, I'm gonna whisk the ingredients together that I have, and then I'm gonna slowly add the olive oil in hopes that what I make is an emulsified dressing, meaning the oil and the vinegar are gonna become one and live in peace and harmony, which makes it a better texture. So I'm just gonna slowly pour in, whisking as I go, and I'm gonna do probably 3 tablespoons at first. Before you dress any salad, you must taste your dressing on whatever it is going to be dressing. So good. Except it can maybe use a teeny bit more salt. I'm gonna use a flaky sea salt and a little bit of pepper. And then I'm gonna add the dressing slowly so that we only add as much as we need. I'll start with like 1/3 of it. Oh yeah. I'm excited for you to do this. Okay, let's do dessert. Every episode of this show is gonna end with a dessert that doesn't have a recipe that you can make in under 5 minutes. And today we're gonna make ice cream sandwiches. This is a carton of ice cream from the grocery store. These are cookies that also came from the grocery store. This cookie is the size of the bottom of the carton. And this cookie is the size of the top of the carton. So if you slice through the carton, you end up with pieces of ice cream that are perfectly sized for your cookies. You can lay your second cookie on top, press it down gently, and you have a perfect ice cream sando. Now, if you want, you can use toppings to make it super festive. If you wanna do like a 4th of July festive situation, you can roll in some sprinkles. It's fun to play with different like flavor combos too. But you just made an ice cream sandwich that is so beautiful and took 0 minutes. Look at this stack. What makes you happy? What could make you happier than a stack of ice cream sandwiches? I hope you had a great time. I know that I did. I want to let you in on a little secret. Every week on my Instagram, I'm going to be doing a giveaway just for you guys with really great prizes. All you have to do is make the 3 dishes that we made today together, post them on Instagram before the next episode airs, same time next week, and you will be entered to win something really, really cool. You're gonna want it. You're gonna want the recipes. There's no losing. There's only winning. That's what Nosh with Tosh is about. So I'll see you winners next week.